Imagine this. A family where every newborn is greeted not with joy, but with fear. Generations chained to tragedy, as if some invisible hand has been pulling the strings of fate. Sounds like a horror movie, right? But wait, this is real. Across history, entire bloodlines have been haunted by curses so powerful, they tore through centuries like wildfire. And tonight, you're about to step into their world. The thunder of destiny doesn't whisper, it crashes. In ancient palaces, in quiet villages, even in the glittering halls of royalty, whispers of curses spread like wildfire. Soldiers refuse to touch certain relics. Mothers warn children not to step on cursed ground. And kings, yes, kings, feared jewels more than rival armies. But here's the question, were these just superstitions, or were they dark truths hidden beneath history's surface? Wait, what? Imagine digging up a centuries-old tomb, only to discover every single person involved dies mysteriously within years. Coincidence? Or something written in the bones of time itself? Think about it, curses don't care about your crown, your wealth, or your power. They crawl through generations, patiently waiting for their next victim. Now here's the twist, curses aren't just dusty legends. They've destroyed presidents, ruined billionaires, and silenced entire bloodlines. From ancient tombs to modern Hollywood scripts, they've jumped through time like shadows that never die. Every culture has them. Every continent tells the same chilling story: break the sacred, betray the forgotten, steal what isn't yours, and the curse will come for you. Close your eyes. Picture the scent of damp earth in a graveyard, the flicker of candlelight against stone walls, the heavy silence before something breaks. This isn't just history, it's a cinematic nightmare that refuses to end. The deeper we go, the darker it gets. And tonight, you're not just watching, you're walking straight into it. Because here's the ultimate cliffhanger, the most cursed families in history didn't just vanish. Some still exist today. Their bloodline continues. Which means, the curse may not be finished yet. 1922. 1. Deep in the Valley of the Kings, the desert sun scorched the sand like fire. Howard Carter and his team were about to make history. For years, treasure hunters had scoured Egypt, chasing whispers of lost gold. But Carter was about to uncover the most famous tomb the world had ever seen, King Tutankhamun's. 2. The moment the seal cracked, the air that rushed out was thousands of years old, thick, stale, and heavy with something else, something darker. Carter raised his candle and whispered the words that would echo through time, "I see wonderful things." But what he didn't see was the curse waiting to strike. Within months of the tomb's opening, people started dying. Lord Carnarvon, Carter's wealthy backer, cut a mosquito bite while shaving. The wound became infected. Weeks later, he was dead. Newspapers screamed, "Death comes on wings to he who enters the tomb of a pharaoh." On the very night Carnarvon died, lights went out across Cairo. At the exact same moment, his dog howled in London, then collapsed, dead. Coincidence? Or the pharaoh's wrath stretching across continents? But wait, what? Carnarvon wasn't the only one. Over the years, more than 20 people linked to the tomb's discovery died under strange circumstances: blood poisoning, fevers, car accidents, even suicide. One victim collapsed at his desk with Tutankhamun's treasures staring back at him. Even Howard Carter himself wasn't spared. Though he lived longer, whispers said he was haunted by nightmares, visions, and shadows in the corridors of his home. Locals swore they saw cobras, the sacred snake of the pharaoh, slithering near his property, as if guarding the secret of the boy king. But here's the ultimate question: was it really a curse, or just science in disguise? Some claim ancient bacteria inside the sealed tomb killed the intruders. Others say it was all media hype. But think about this, even today, Egyptologists who handle Tut's artifacts report sickness, accidents, and uncanny strokes of bad luck. And here's the part no one talks about: Tutankhamun wasn't an ordinary king. His body showed signs of deformities, inbreeding, and disease. Some say his life itself was cursed, and that his tomb carried his suffering forward for eternity. So I'll leave you with this: was the boy king reaching across time to punish the living? Or are we still under the Pharaoh's curse right now? 1817. 1. The air in Adams, Tennessee, was thick with summer heat, the kind that makes the woods hum with cicadas. John Bell, a farmer, spotted something in his fields, a strange creature. Its body was like a dog's, but its head was a rabbit's. Before he could react, it vanished into the shadows. That night, the Bell family's nightmare began. 2. From whispers in the dark to full-blown attacks, what happened to the Bells would terrify even hardened skeptics. And here's the insane part: their haunting was so powerful, even a future president of the United States got involved. It started small. Knocking sounds on walls. Scratching beneath beds. At night, the family heard faint whispers calling their names. But then it escalated, blankets yanked off sleeping children, invisible hands slapping them across the face. The unseen force spoke with a woman's voice, calling herself Kate. Imagine this: your home filled with laughter, but it isn't yours. The sound of someone mocking you, unseen, unstoppable. That was the Bell's reality. John Bell suffered the most. His throat swelled, his tongue twisted, his health collapsed under the spirit's torment. And when he finally died in 1820, a mysterious vial of black liquid was found. The witch's voice declared triumph: I gave him that dose. But wait, what? The Bell Witch didn't just haunt the Bells. Neighbors, ministers, entire townsfolk heard the spirit's taunts. Even Andrew Jackson, before becoming president, traveled to Adams to see for himself. His men claimed their wagon froze, the horses refused to move. Then a voice hissed, "You may go on, but I will see you tonight." Jackson fled. After John Bell's death, the witch vanished, but not forever. She promised to return in 7 years. And according to local law, she did, only quieter, lurking, watching. Some even say her presence is still felt near the old Bell farm today. And here's the chilling part: descendants of the Bells still live in Tennessee. Generations later, many whisper that the curse never truly lifted. Imagine being born into a family where your legacy is a witch's vengeance. So the question remains: was the Bell Witch a restless spirit, a demon, or something far darker, a curse passed down in blood? The Kennedy name was supposed to mean power, wealth, and glory. But instead, it became a chilling reminder that even America's royal family couldn't outrun fate. From assassinations to plane crashes, from scandals to sudden deaths, the Kennedys lived like kings, but died like the cursed. It began in 1944. Joseph Kennedy Jr., the eldest son, was primed to become president. Brave, handsome, the perfect heir. But during a secret mission in World War II, his plane exploded mid-air, leaving nothing but smoke and fire over the English countryside. His dream died in the sky. That left the path wide open for his younger brother, John F. Kennedy. John rose like lightning. A war hero. A senator. Then, the youngest president America had ever seen. He symbolized hope, a golden future. But in Dallas, 1963, the dream shattered with a single bullet. The most powerful man in the world was gunned down, in broad daylight. The nation wept, but the curse had only just begun. Robert Kennedy, the loyal brother, took up the torch. He ran for president in 1968. Crowds adored him, chanting his name like a savior. But in Los Angeles, as he walked through a hotel kitchen, shots rang out. He fell to the floor, bleeding out before America's eyes. 2 brothers, 2 assassinations, both before they could finish what they started. The curse didn't stop there. Kathleen Kennedy died in a plane crash. Ted Kennedy survived a car accident in Chappaquiddick, but the scandal destroyed his career. Then came John F. Kennedy Jr., the nation's golden boy, America's prince. In 1999, his plane disappeared into the Atlantic Ocean. The wreckage confirmed it: he, his wife, and her sister were gone. Another Kennedy lost to the sky, as if the family was doomed to fall from heights they were never meant to reach. Even today, whispers of the Kennedy curse linger. Some say it was destiny punishing a family that reached too far, too fast. Others believe it was enemies, conspiracies, the weight of power itself. But the tragedies, they stack too neatly, too cruelly, like dominoes falling through history. And here's the chilling part, the Kennedy bloodline isn't gone. Descendants still live. Which means the curse isn't finished. So ask yourself, is the Kennedy family proof that curses don't just haunt the past, they hunt the future? The Kennedy name carried with it power, wealth, and influence, but also a darkness that seemed impossible to escape. Robert F. Kennedy, brother of the slain president, was seen as the family's last great hope. Charismatic, fearless, and deeply loved, he entered the 1968 presidential race with momentum so unstoppable that many believed the White House was already within his grasp. But on the night of June 5, 1968, inside the crowded kitchen pantry of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, that hope shattered. Moments after delivering a triumphant victory speech, Robert walked through the narrow passageway, smiling, shaking hands, believing his future was secured. Then, 6 shots tore through the air. The assassin, Sirhan, was quickly subdued, but the damage was done. Robert collapsed, his life slipping away as chaos consumed the hotel. America watched in horror as the Kennedy dream died for the second time in less than a decade. Here's the Sirhan's motive was never fully clear. He claimed anger over U.S. support for Israel, but whispers of deeper conspiracies spread like wildfire. Many still believe Robert was silenced not by one lone gunman, but by hidden forces terrified of another Kennedy presidency. The U lies in this chilling truth: the Kennedy family's story wasn't just about assassinations, it was about a curse, an unseen hand that struck them down at the very height of their power. And Robert's death wasn't the end, it was just another bloody chapter in a saga that seemed cursed from the start. If the assassinations weren't enough to stain the Kennedy legacy with blood, the Chappaquiddick incident carved a wound that never healed. On the night of July 18, 1969, Senator Ted Kennedy attended a party on Massachusetts' tiny Chappaquiddick Island. But as midnight drew near, he drove away with 28-year-old campaign worker Mary Jo Kopchen beside him. What happened next has haunted history for decades. His car veered off a narrow wooden bridge and plunged into the black waters below. Ted Kennedy escaped. Mary Jo did not. Her body was found trapped inside the submerged car hours later. The scandal exploded. How did a U.S. senator leave a woman to die? Here's the Ted didn't report the accident until the following morning, more than 9 hours later. That delay, shrouded in secrecy, fueled rumors that he had been drunk, that he panicked, or worse, that someone helped cover it up. This wasn't just a tragic accident, it was the moment the Kennedy curse shifted from assassinations to shame. Many believed Ted Kennedy could have carried the family torch to the presidency, but after Chappaquiddick, his destiny was buried with Mary Jo at the bottom of that river. The Kennedy dream wasn't just being attacked from the outside, it was unraveling from within. It was July 16, 1999. The night was clear, the Atlantic calm, and John F. Kennedy Jr., the golden son of America's fallen president, was piloting his private plane toward Martha's Vineyard. On board with him were his wife, Carolyn, and her sister, Lauren. They never made it. Radar picked up the aircraft spiraling into the ocean, vanishing into the black depths. When search teams recovered the wreckage days later, it was confirmed, the Prince of Camelot was gone. Another Kennedy, swallowed by the sea. Here's the investigators found no mechanical failure. Instead, they blamed JFK Jr.'s spatial disorientation, a polite way of saying he lost his sense of up and down. But whispers spread, was it truly pilot error, or something far darker? Some believed his plane was tampered with, silenced before he could enter politics. The JFK Jr. wasn't just a Kennedy, he was the Kennedy. Handsome, charismatic, a media darling, America's royalty reborn. His death didn't just feel like tragedy, it felt like destiny, as though the curse itself hunted him down in the sky. And yet, the curse didn't stop with him. The Kennedy family tree kept bleeding, accidents, overdoses, tragedies that defied statistics. Was it coincidence, or was the family line truly marked? It glitters with a blue fire so hypnotic it looks alive. The Hope Diamond, weighing 45.52 carats, is one of the most famous jewels in the world. But behind its dazzling beauty lies a trail of ruin that stretches across centuries. Legend says the diamond was stolen from the eye of a Hindu idol in India. The thief who pried it free was torn apart by wild dogs. From that moment, the jewel was said to carry a curse of death and despair. As the diamond traveled from hand to hand, M piled up. King Louis XIV, who owned it, later died of gangrene. His grandson, Louis XVI, and Marie Antoinette wore it. Both were beheaded by the guillotine during the French Revolution. Centuries later, socialite Evelyn Walsh McLean flaunted it at parties, but her daughter died young, her son perished in a car crash, and her husband lost his mind in an asylum. Today, the diamond sits locked away in the Smithsonian Museum, admired by millions. But whispers say even gazing at it too long is tempting fate. Some staff claim strange chills, flickering lights, and sudden accidents follow those who handle it. The Hope Diamond doesn't just shine, it stalks. Every glimmer hides a warning: beauty this dangerous always comes with a price. In November 1922, deep in the Valley of the Kings, British archaeologist Howard Carter struck stone. Beneath centuries of sand and secrecy, he uncovered a sealed doorway. Behind it lay the untouched tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, the boy king. What should have been the greatest archaeological triumph in history soon became a nightmare whispered across the world. The moment Carter's team opened the chamber, they found walls shimmering with gold, jewels piled in shadows, and the sarcophagus of a king who had slept undisturbed for 3,000 years. Carved into the walls was a chilling warning: death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king. And then the deaths began. Lord Carnarvon, who funded the dig, died suddenly of blood poisoning just months after entering the tomb. Newspapers called it the curse of the pharaoh. At the exact moment he died, his dog back in England let out a howl and dropped dead. More followed: archaeologists, visitors, even relatives, falling to strange illnesses, freak accidents, or violent deaths. Each one tightened the legend: Tutankhamun was punishing those who violated his eternal sleep. Even modern science can't erase the fear. Some scientists suggest deadly ancient bacteria, sealed in the tomb for millennia, poisoned the intruders. Others say that's just a cover-up, that the Pharaoh's curse is real, a shadow stretching across time. Every artifact glimmered with gold, but every discovery carried a price. Tutankhamun was more than a boy king. In death, he became a hunter. Baseball fans still whisper about it like a ghost story. In 1919, the Boston Red Sox made the most infamous trade in sports history. They sold Babe Ruth, the Bambino, to the New York Yankees. What followed wasn't just a bad deal. It was a curse that haunted Boston for 86 years. Before the trade, the Red Sox were kings, winning championship after championship. But the moment Ruth left, their glory crumbled. The Sox didn't win another World Series for nearly a century. Meanwhile, the Yankees, powered by Ruth, became the most successful team in baseball history. It wasn't just losing games. The Sox seemed cursed by fate itself. Balls bounced off walls in impossible ways. Legendary players choked at the worst moments. In 1986, with victory seconds away, a ground ball slipped between Bill Buckner's legs, a blunder so shocking it became a symbol of the curse. Fans grew convinced it wasn't bad luck. Some claimed Babe Ruth's restless spirit sabotaged Boston for betraying him. Others swore a generational hex was written into Fenway Park itself. In 2004, after decades of heartbreak, the Red Sox finally shattered the curse, completing a miraculous comeback against the Yankees and winning the World Series. For Boston fans, it felt like an exorcism. But here's the eerie part: even after the curse was broken, whispers lingered. Some say curses don't die, they wait. And the Bambino's shadow still hangs over Fenway like unfinished business. It was supposed to be just another horror movie. But the Poltergeist trilogy became something else entirely, a Hollywood legend dripping with death. From the moment cameras rolled in 1982, the set carried an energy no one could explain. Within 6 years of the first film's release, 4 cast members were dead. And the deaths weren't random, they were violent, shocking, and utterly unforgettable. Dominique Dunne, who played the eldest daughter, was strangled to death by her boyfriend weeks after the movie premiered. Heather O'Rourke, the little girl who whispered, "They are here," died at just 12 from a mysterious intestinal blockage before the third film was even released. Two other actors died suddenly, Julian Beck from stomach cancer and Will Sampson after a botched surgery. Fans and crew began to whisper, had the movie itself been cursed? And then came the revelation that chilled Hollywood. The film's most terrifying scene, the one where skeletons rise from the mud, used real human skeletons instead of props. The studio had bought them cheap from a medical supplier. Some claimed this desecration bound the production to restless spirits, unleashing the curse. Even now, horror fans debate whether the curse was coincidence, Hollywood gossip, or something darker. But one thing is undeniable: when death follows a film this closely, the line between fiction and reality starts to blur. The screams on screen weren't the only ones. The S on Superman's chest was supposed to stand for hope. But for the actors who wore it, it became a mark of doom. Hollywood began whispering about the Superman curse, and the trail of tragedy it left behind is impossible to ignore. George Reeves, TV's original Superman in the 1950s, was found dead with a gunshot wound to the head. Police called it suicide, but friends swore it was murder. The truth? Still unsolved. Then came Christopher Reeve, who embodied Superman for an entire generation. At the peak of his fame, a horse-riding accident left him paralyzed from the neck down. He fought with courage for years before his death in 2004. Just 2 years later, his wife Dana died suddenly of lung cancer, even though she never smoked a day in her life. The curse didn't stop with them. Margot Kidder, Lois Lane herself, spiraled into years of mental illness before her tragic death in 2018. Even Henry Cavill, the modern Superman, has faced career setbacks and strange misfortunes that fans point to as the curse still at work. Every time a new actor dons the cape, audiences hold their breath, waiting to see if the curse will strike again. Is Superman the world's greatest hero, or Hollywood's most dangerous role? The cape doesn't just lift men into the sky. It drags them down into darkness. Actors refuse to say its name. In theatres across the world, it is only called the Scottish play. For centuries, whispers of a curse have clung to Shakespeare's Macbeth, leaving a trail of blood, accidents, and terror behind every performance. The very first staging of Macbeth in 1606 was said to be cursed from the start. Legend claims Shakespeare used real spells in the witches' scenes, angering dark forces. On opening night, the actor playing Lady Macbeth collapsed and died suddenly backstage. Since then, the curse has struck again and again. In 1849, a performance in New York turned into a riot when rival fans clashed. Over 20 people were killed in the streets. In 1937, Laurence Olivier nearly died on stage when a weight mysteriously crashed from the rafters, missing him by inches, while another actor was killed in the same production. Even modern productions aren't safe. Fires, sudden illnesses, broken bones, accidents that defy logic haunt the play wherever it's performed. Some actors insist that even uttering the name, Macbeth, inside a theater invites disaster. To break the curse, they must leave the building, spin 3 times, and spit before returning. Every line of Shakespeare's masterpiece drips with ambition, blood, and betrayal. But for those who dare perform it, the true horror may not be on the page, it may be waiting in the shadows of the stage. There is a number that haunts the music world like a grave marker carved in stone, 27. It doesn't matter the genre, the country, or the decade. Over and over, the brightest stars of music have burned out at the same age, leaving behind fans who whisper about the curse of the 27 Club. Brian Jones, the founding member of the Rolling Stones, was the first to fall. In 1969, at just 27, he was found lifeless at the bottom of his swimming pool. The official story called it drowning, but the details never added up. Rumors of drugs, fights, even murder still echo. And that was only the beginning. Less than 2 years later, in 1970, the curse claimed 3 more legends in rapid succession. Jimi Hendrix, hailed as the greatest guitarist of all time, choked to death on his own vomit in a London flat, after a mysterious night of barbiturates and wine. His death shocked the world. But before fans could even grieve, Janis Joplin, queen of rock and soul, was found dead from a heroin overdose. And just months later, Jim Morrison. But the doors collapsed in a Paris bathtub, his heart stopping without warning. No autopsy was performed. The rumors? Endless. Drugs. Government surveillance. Occult ties. The 27 Club was growing. Then came, in 1994, Nirvana's Kurt Cobain joined them. His shotgun death was ruled a suicide, but conspiracy theories exploded. Fans argued the angle of the wound didn't fit. Some believed he was murdered, silenced at the peak of his fame. His death cemented the legend. 27 wasn't a coincidence. It was destiny. Amy Winehouse, the soulful voice of a new generation, died in 2011 from alcohol poisoning. She was just 27. And with her, the whispers grew louder. Could it be the weight of fame? The temptations of drugs and alcohol? Or was something darker at work, pulling these stars down into the same graveyard age again and again? Even science tried to explain it away. Studies show young musicians die on average in their late 20s. But believers know better. This is no random statistic. This is a pattern etched in blood and music. Every record, every stage, every guitar solo feels haunted by the same ticking clock. And when a young star rises today, fans hold their breath when the number approaches. 26. 27. Will they escape, or will the curse come calling? Because the 27 Club doesn't retire. It waits. James Dean wasn't just a movie star. He was rebellion, danger, and beauty wrapped in leather and steel. But the machine that carried him into legend was no ordinary car, it was cursed. His silver Porsche 550 Spider, nicknamed Little Bastard, didn't just kill him. It left a trail of blood and twisted wreckage wherever it went. September 30, 1955, Dean was only 24 when he climbed into the driver's seat of Little Bastard, roaring down a California highway. At 5:45 p.m., he collided head-on with another car. Dean's body was shattered, his life cut short in an instant. But his death was only the beginning of the curse. The wrecked Porsche was bought by a man named George Berris, who planned to use it for parts. But the moment it arrived, strange things began. The car slipped from its trailer, crushing a mechanic's legs. Another buyer installed pieces into his own car. He crashed days later, killing himself. A second driver, who also used parts from Little Bastard, spun out on the track and died in flames. Even spectators weren't safe. The wreck was displayed at a safety exhibit, but the garage it was stored in mysteriously caught fire, reducing everything to ashes, except the Porsche. Later, while being transported, the truck carrying the wreck crashed, throwing Little Bastard onto the road and nearly killing the driver. Witnesses began to swear the car carried an evil presence. Police officers reported brakes failing when towing it. By the 1960s, the wreck simply vanished, stolen or hidden away, as though the curse demanded it be kept out of sight. To this day, the full remains of Little Bastard have never been found. James Dean once said in an interview, "Dream as if you'll live forever. Live as if you'll die today." He didn't know how prophetic those words would be. The Porsche was supposed to be his passion. Instead, it became his tombstone, a silver demon that refused to die. Every legend has a spark, but some carry smoke long after the fire fades. And Little Bastard still smolders in the shadows of Hollywood, waiting for the next hand foolish enough to touch it. In 1991, high in the frozen Alps between Austria and Italy, two hikers stumbled upon what they thought was a lost climber. But the body wasn't modern. It was a man. Preserved in ice for over 5,000 years. He became known as Otzi the Iceman, and from the moment he was pulled from the glacier, death seemed to follow those who touched him. Within years of the discovery, 7 people linked directly to Otzi's excavation died sudden, violent, or mysterious deaths. The forensic pathologist who placed Otzi in his body bag died in a freak car accident. A mountain guide who led scientists to the mummy was killed in an avalanche. And the man who filmed the recovery was found dead of a brain tumor. The most chilling case came in 2004, when Helmut Simon, one of the hikers who discovered Otzi, fell to his death while hiking. Days later, the head of the rescue team searching for him also died of a heart attack. Locals began to whisper that Otzi wasn't just an archaeological treasure, he was a guardian, punishing those who disturbed his eternal rest. Even modern scientists can't shake the unease. While most argue it's coincidence, others believe the curse is real, encoded in the frozen silence of the Alps. His arrows, his axe, his tattoos, every piece of him feels alive, watching, waiting. Otzi didn't die alone in the snow. His vengeance, some say, still walks with the wind. He was called a holy man, a mystic, a devil, and a fraud. Grigory Rasputin, the Siberian peasant who slithered into the heart of the Russian royal family, was feared and hated in equal measure. But when he died, his curse was said to outlive him, and some believe it destroyed an empire. Rasputin gained power through the suffering of a child. Tsarevich Alexei, heir to the throne, was a hemophiliac, one cut could kill him. Doctors failed, but Rasputin's strange prayers seemed to ease the boy's bleeding. That single miracle bound him to the Romanovs. Soon, this filthy, unwashed mystic was whispering into the ear of the Tsarina, controlling court politics, and enraging the nobility. In 1916, the Russian elite decided to end him. They poisoned him with cyanide-laced cakes and wine. But Rasputin didn't die. He laughed. He sang. He drank more. They shot him in the chest, he fell. Moments later, he staggered to his feet, still alive, eyes blazing. They shot him again, this time in the head. And yet, the legend says, when his body was pulled from the icy Neva River, water was found in his lungs. He hadn't died from poison or bullets. He had drowned. Before his death, Rasputin had written a letter to Tsar Nicholas, warning that if he were killed by peasants, the Romanovs would survive. But if nobles took his life, the entire dynasty would collapse within 2 years. Less than 2 years later, the Russian Revolution exploded. The Tsar abdicated, the royal family was imprisoned, and in 1918, Nicholas, Alexandra, and their children were executed by firing squad. The Romanovs were wiped from history, just as Rasputin had foretold. Even after death, Rasputin's shadow lingered. His corpse was dug up and burned, but as the flames consumed him, witnesses swore his body sat upright in the fire, arms flailing as if he was alive again. Some claimed it was a final curse, his spirit refusing to die. Rasputin was no ordinary man. To some, he was a fraud who manipulated a desperate family. To others, he was a sorcerer whose prophecies still chill the world. Whether trickster or prophet, his curse was fulfilled in blood. The mad monk's laughter didn't end in the Neva, it echoed into history, dragging an empire down with him. In the 1980s, across England, firefighters began noticing something deeply unsettling. After house fires burned entire homes to the ground, one item kept surviving the flames, a cheap, mass-produced painting of a little boy with tears running down his cheeks. At first, it was just coincidence. Then, it happened again. And again. Entire houses reduced to ash, yet the crying boy paintings hung intact on blackened walls, staring with haunting eyes. The press caught wind of it, and tabloids exploded with headlines, "The Curse of the Crying Boy." People whispered that the painting was not just unlucky, it was cursed. Families who owned the painting told stories of sudden disasters. Kitchens exploding, mysterious fires erupting in the night, and in every case, the painting survived. A retired firefighter confessed that he had personally seen over 50 incidents where the crying boy painting was untouched by flames while everything else was destroyed. The fear spread so widely that people began throwing the paintings into bonfires, yet even then, some claimed they refused to burn. But where did this cursed image come from? One story claimed the boy in the painting was an orphan whose parents died in a fire. Wherever he went, flames followed. Another version said the artist made a pact with the devil, trapping the boy's soul in the canvas forever. In a chilling twist, skeptics who mocked the curse often ended up with fires of their own. One man who laughed at the legend kept the painting in his home, his house burned down within a week. Neighbors swore the boy's eyes looked darker in the ashes. The panic reached such a fever pitch that radio stations held live, crying boy burnings, where people brought their cursed paintings to be destroyed. Listeners tuned in as crackling fires consumed hundreds of canvases, but still, rumors spread that some survived the flames untouched. Even scientists couldn't fully explain it. Some argued that the painting was coated with fire-retardant varnish. But that didn't explain why so many different houses, with so many different circumstances, ended the same way: total destruction, except for the weeping child's face staring back through the smoke. Today, the crying boy paintings still exist, scattered in flea markets, attics, and old houses. Owners swear they feel watched, that strange misfortunes follow. Some destroy them. Others dare to keep them, as if challenging the curse. One thing is certain: whenever tragedy strikes, and flames consume everything in their path, people still whisper, "The crying boy survives." In 1922, the Valley of the Kings was silent, its sands untouched for centuries. Then, British archaeologist Howard Carter broke through a sealed doorway and entered the tomb of Tutankhamun. What he found was breathtaking: solid gold treasures, jeweled daggers, statues of gods. But alongside the riches came whispers of something far darker. Above the tomb's entrance was said to be an ominous inscription: "Death shall come swiftly on wings to him who disturbs the peace of the Pharaoh." When Carter's team began opening the tomb, strange deaths soon followed. Lord Carnarvon, the wealthy patron funding the dig, was bitten by a mosquito. Days later, the bite became infected. Within weeks, he died in agony. At the very moment of his death, the lights in Cairo went out, and his dog back in England howled before dropping dead. Other members of the expedition also met eerie fates. A radiologist who x-rayed the mummy collapsed suddenly of an illness. A wealthy visitor to the tomb died of pneumonia days later. A French Egyptologist was found dead under mysterious circumstances. The press seized on the story, calling it the Pharaohs' Curse. Soon the world believed the boy king's wrath had been awakened. Carter himself seemed immune. For years, he worked, studied, and lived unharmed. Skeptics pointed to him as proof the curse was superstition. But then came the twist: though Carter escaped sudden death, his life unraveled. Friends abandoned him, his career crumbled, and he died alone, shunned by the academic community. Even stranger, modern science revealed Tutankhamun's tomb carried a hidden danger: air sealed for thousands of years, laced with deadly molds and bacteria. Anyone who breathed it might fall victim to unseen killers. Could the curse have been biological, rather than mystical? And yet, coincidences linger. The sheer number of deaths tied to the tomb still baffles historians. Too many to ignore. Too precise to dismiss. Some believe Tutankhamun was not just a boy king, but a guardian even in death. His treasures were not gifts for the living, they were traps. The curse wasn't a warning. It was a promise. To this day, Egyptologists whisper before entering ancient tombs. They wear protective suits, not just against mold, but against something far older, something unseen. Because every time a tomb is opened, the same question hangs in the air. What if the pharaoh still protects his sleep? The Koh-i-Noor diamond, Mountain of Light, is one of the most famous gems in history. But behind its dazzling brilliance lies a trail of blood, betrayal, and broken empires. For centuries, rulers fought, killed, and died for this single stone. And everywhere it went, destruction followed. Legends say the Koh-i-Noor carries a curse so deadly that no man who wears it can hold power for long without falling to ruin. The diamond's earliest records trace back to India, where it was mounted in the peacock throne of the Mughal emperors. Shahs and sultans believed it was a divine symbol of authority. But time and again, it became a beacon of disaster. In the 18th century, Persian ruler Nader Shah invaded Delhi, seized the diamond, and declared it his ultimate prize. Months later, he was assassinated in his own palace, his empire crumbling around him. Then it passed to Afghan rulers, where betrayal cut deep. Shah Shuja, desperate to cling to power, lost the gem to the Sikhs. He was imprisoned, tortured, and broken. The Koh-i-Noor glittered on, but its owners were left in ruin. When the British conquered Punjab in 1849, they seized the diamond and presented it to Queen Victoria. The curse whispered through the empire: would the jewel destroy even the might of Britain? Strangely, after arriving in England, the diamond was never worn by a man again. Instead, it was passed only to queens and consorts, almost as if someone had learned that its curse struck hardest against male rulers. Placed in the crown jewels, the Koh-i-Noor gleamed at coronations, weddings, and royal ceremonies. Yet behind the pageantry, unrest grew in the colonies. Revolutions flared, soldiers mutinied, and the British Empire began its long, slow collapse. Some whisper the stone was feeding. Even today, the Koh-i-Noor sits locked in the Tower of London, glittering but untouchable. India, Pakistan, and Iran all demand its return, each claiming ancestral rights. Yet none can take it back. Perhaps they fear the curse. Perhaps they know the gem brings only sorrow. Recent jewel historians discovered eerie coincidences. Every time the Koh-i-Noor changed hands through war or bloodshed, a dynasty fell within a generation. Not once. Not twice. But every single time. What if the Koh-i-Noor is more than a jewel? What if it's a silent judge of empires, gifting beauty while poisoning the hand that holds it? The crown gleams in silence, but its brilliance hides centuries of blood. And the question remains, when the next ruler places it on their head, will history repeat itself? It glitters with a deep, mesmerizing blue, a jewel unlike any other. The Hope Diamond, weighing more than 45 carats, is said to carry not just beauty but doom. For centuries, this diamond has passed from hand to hand, leaving a trail of tragedy that feels less like coincidence, and more like a curse carved into the very heart of the stone. Legends claim the gem was stolen from the eye of a Hindu idol, and in that theft, a curse was born, one that promised misery and death to whoever possessed it. The first recorded owner in Europe, King Louis XIV, wore it proudly as the French blue. But the diamond soon became stained with blood. The king's heirs fell, one by one, and the French monarchy itself collapsed in revolution. Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, both connected to the diamond, were executed by guillotine, their blood running in the streets of Paris. After disappearing for years, the stone resurfaced in London, cut and reshaped into the Hope Diamond. Its owners seemed to fall under its shadow. A French merchant was said to have been mauled to death by wild dogs. A Russian princess took her own life in despair. A Turkish sultan was dethroned, his dynasty shattered. Even in modern times, the curse persisted. American socialite Evelyn Walsh McLean bought the diamond in the early 1900s, dismissing the rumors as superstition. But her life unraveled. Her husband abandoned her, her daughter died of a drug overdose, and her son was killed in a car accident. By the time of her death, her fortune and her family were in ruins. Today, the Hope Diamond rests in the Smithsonian Museum, encased in glass. Millions admire it every year, but none dare to claim it. Curators insist the curse is just myth, yet even they whisper about strange coincidences, accidents during transport, unexplained illnesses, and sudden deaths of those connected to its movements. The gem's blue fire seems alive, almost watching. Some scientists argue its unique glow, an eerie red phosphorescence when exposed to ultraviolet light, fuels the legend. But others believe the glow itself is a warning, a sign of the stone's restless spirit. What if the curse isn't about ownership, but about obsession? Nearly everyone who desired the Hope Diamond lost more than they gained. Power, family, life itself, all consumed by a hunger that the gem seemed to ignite. The question remains, is the Hope Diamond cursed, or is it cursed desire itself that destroys? Behind the glass, it waits. Gleaming. Beckoning. A jewel of beauty, and a harbinger of ruin. Deep in the forests of Romania, where the mist clings to ruined monasteries and wolves howl under the moon, lies the legend of Vlad the Impaler, the man who inspired Dracula. Brutal, merciless, feared by all, Vlad was said to have killed tens of thousands, leaving their bodies impaled on wooden stakes as warnings to his enemies. When he died in 1476, his burial place was meant to end his reign of terror. Instead, it began one of history's most chilling mysteries. To this day, no one knows where Vlad the Impaler is truly buried, and those who try to uncover his tomb often meet violent, inexplicable ends. Some historians believed his body was laid to rest at Snagov Monastery, an island fortress surrounded by black waters. But when archaeologists dug beneath the church floor in the 1930s, they uncovered an empty grave. The coffin contained only animal bones, as if someone had deliberately replaced his body with a decoy. Other researchers turned to Komana Monastery, a stronghold Vlad himself had built. Excavations there revealed human remains, but none that could be identified as his. The bones were scattered, broken, and mixed with others, almost as if disturbed by something unnatural. Local villagers whisper that the earth itself rejects his body, that Vlad cannot rest because his soul is cursed to walk until the end of time. Some even claim to have seen a shadowy figure moving near the monasteries at night, tall, cloaked, and vanishing into mist. Stranger still, several researchers who sought his tomb reported strange misfortunes. 1. Historian died in a sudden car crash. Another vanished during a hiking trip in the Carpathians. Their colleagues said it was coincidence. But locals said otherwise. Vlad does not want to be found. Legends grew darker with each failed attempt. Some say Vlad was buried in secret by monks who feared his power would not die with his body. Others claim his enemies tore him apart and scattered his remains so he could never rise again. And yet, the stories of a restless curse linger, unbroken by time. In 2014, researchers in Naples, Italy, uncovered a startling clue, an ornate tomb with strange carvings resembling Wallachian symbols. Could Vlad have been buried far from his homeland, hidden in plain sight? If true, his curse would not be bound to Romania, but spread across Europe. Whether his body lies in Romania, Italy, or nowhere at all, one thing remains certain: Vlad's shadow still lingers. His curse isn't carved into stone, it's etched into fear itself. The tomb is empty. The trail is cold. And perhaps that is the curse's greatest power, to remind us that some monsters never stay buried. In a quiet Italian village centuries ago, a bride prepared for her wedding day. Among her gifts was a beautiful silver vase, crafted with intricate detail and polished to a blinding shine. But she never made it to the altar. On the night before her wedding, she was found lifeless, the vase clutched tightly in her arms. From that night on, the Bassano vase carried death wherever it went. The family, shaken with grief, locked it away. But as the years passed, the vase resurfaced. Each new owner seemed to meet the same fate: sudden, violent, and unexplained death. A wealthy nobleman received it as a gift, only to die within weeks. A young bridegroom, eager to begin his new life, was found dead the very night he touched it. A priest who tried to bless the vase collapsed without warning during the ritual. Word spread quickly. People began to fear the silver artifact, whispering that it carried not joy, but vengeance. Some claimed the original bride's spirit had bound herself to the vase, cursing anyone who dared to claim it. In the 1980s, the vase mysteriously appeared again, this time with a note inside that read, "Beware, this vase brings death." But the warning was ignored. One buyer after another took it into their homes. Each time, the result was the same: sudden, inexplicable tragedy. At last, the vase was surrendered to the police. But even they were too terrified to keep it in their station. According to local reports, officers buried it deep in an undisclosed location, never to be seen again. And yet, the legend refuses to die. Some believe the vase still exists, hidden under stone and soil, its silver surface waiting to be touched again. Others say it was destroyed. But the mystery remains: no one can prove what truly happened. Modern researchers digging through archives discovered a chilling clue: the deaths weren't just random. Each victim had received the vase as a gift. Almost as if the curse only worked when it was willingly accepted. That detail changes everything. What if the Bassano vase isn't cursed at all, but possessed? What if the act of accepting it invites something into your life, something that never lets go? To this day, no museum will claim to have it. No collector dares to admit owning it. Somewhere in Italy, beneath layers of earth and silence, a silver vase may still be waiting. And if it ever rises again, the curse will rise with it. It was just a painting. A portrait of a sad child with tears frozen on his cheeks. Yet by the 1980s, across Britain, the "crying boy" painting became infamous, not as art, but as a harbinger of disaster. Families bought it, hung it on their walls, and within months, their homes were engulfed in flames. Again and again, when firefighters sifted through the ashes, they found one thing untouched by fire: the crying boy painting. The tabloids seized on the story. Headlines screamed of the curse of the crying boy. But it wasn't just superstition. The fires were real, the deaths undeniable, and the painting was always there. A firefighter in Yorkshire admitted he'd seen at least 15 homes reduced to rubble where the crying boy had hung, and in every single case, the painting survived without a single scorch mark. The public panicked. Thousands tore the paintings from their walls, tossing them into the streets. But even then, strange things happened. Reports surfaced of people who tried to destroy the painting, only for misfortune to strike them instead. A car accident. A sudden illness. A financial collapse. One chilling rumor spread that the boy in the painting was not a model at all, but an orphan who had died in a fire. Some even claimed the artist had made a pact with the devil to ensure the painting's success, binding the child's tormented soul into every copy. The curse spread further when mass reproductions of the painting appeared. Suddenly, thousands of households across Britain had the crying boy on their walls. The potential for disaster grew tenfold. People feared they had unknowingly invited a curse into their homes. Eventually, to calm the panic, one newspaper organized a massive public burning of the crying boy prints. Hundreds of paintings were thrown into the flames. The crowd cheered, until witnesses claimed that as the canvas burned, they heard a child's wailing in the smoke. And yet, the curse didn't end. Some families reported fires even after the prints were destroyed. Others swore that copies they had thrown away mysteriously returned, hanging once more in their homes. To this day, skeptics argue the painting's survival was due to a fire-resistant varnish. But believers insist the explanation is too neat, too convenient. What are the odds that so many homes would burn, while only the crying boy remained untouched? The painting still circulates in flea markets, old attics, and second-hand shops. Somewhere, someone right now might be hanging it on their wall, unaware that they've invited ashes, sorrow, and a crying child who never leaves. Locked in the vaults of London's Natural History Museum lies a jewel unlike any other, a deep violet stone, misnamed as a sapphire but actually an amethyst. Its color is beautiful, but its history is drenched in tragedy. The Delhi purple sapphire is said to carry a curse so potent that it leaves only despair in its wake. From the moment it was stolen from India in the 1850s, nearly every owner of the Delhi purple sapphire met ruin, madness, or death. The stone was first looted from a temple of the Hindu god Indra during the Indian Rebellion of 1857. Soldiers who took it home were plagued by illness, failed fortunes, and relentless bad luck. The gem seemed less like a treasure and more like a predator. One officer who possessed it lost his entire family to disease. Another soldier who carried it home suffered financial collapse and died penniless. Eventually, the stone came into the hands of Edward Heron Allen, a respected scientist and author. But instead of bringing him prestige, it dragged him into despair. Heron Allen wrote that the stone was cursed and stained with blood. He claimed it brought him nothing but misfortune. Friends abandoned him, his work was ridiculed, and tragedies struck his household. In desperation, he locked the jewel inside 7 boxes, sealed it with protective charms, and gave it to his banker with explicit instructions: it must never see the light of day again. Even so, curiosity pulled the stone back into circulation. After Heron Allen's death, the gem resurfaced, and its pattern of destruction began again. Those who came into contact with it reported illness, financial ruin, and sudden accidents. Terrified of its power, Heron Allen's own daughter donated the stone to the Natural History Museum in London. But even then, staff whispered about accidents that seemed to follow those who handled it: unexpected illnesses, sudden resignations, inexplicable dread. Today, the gem sits in a glass case, silent but menacing. Museum labels warn visitors of its dark reputation. Most pass by in awe, unaware that the jewel's beauty masks centuries of sorrow. Some historians argue the curse is nothing more than guilt, echoes of colonial theft, wrapped in superstition. But others wonder if something older lingers in the amethyst, something bound to the temple it was ripped from. After all, what if the Delhi purple sapphire isn't cursed because it was stolen? What if it was created as a curse, forged as a weapon of divine vengeance? The jewel gleams quietly in its case, waiting. Perhaps it is safe behind glass. Or perhaps, like Heron Allen warned, it is only biding its time, until another hand dares to claim it. At first glance, it isn't even a ruby. The massive red stone, now set in the imperial state crown of Britain, is actually a spinel. But what it lacks in authenticity, it more than makes up for in blood. The Black Prince's ruby has passed through the hands of kings, conquerors, and killers, and everywhere it went, chaos followed. For nearly 700 years, this blood-red gem has been tied to betrayal, murder, and the fall of empires. The stone first appears in the 14th century, in the possession of Abu Said, the Muslim ruler of Granada. When he met with King Pedro of Castile to negotiate peace, he was ambushed. Pedro murdered him and seized the stone, drenching its history in treachery from the very beginning. But Pedro's triumph was short-lived. He himself was soon betrayed and killed by his half-brother, leaving the cursed stone to pass into English hands. It was gifted to Edward of Woodstock, the Black Prince, whose name it still bears. The prince died young, never living to wear the crown he was promised. From there, the ruby's shadow grew darker. It was mounted in the helmet of King Henry V during the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. Struck by an enemy's sword, Henry nearly lost his life, but miraculously, the ruby survived unscathed. Soldiers whispered that the stone had absorbed the blow, drinking in blood to strengthen its curse. Centuries later, the gem sat in the crown of King Charles I. His reign ended with civil war and his execution by beheading. Then it adorned Charles II, who barely escaped assassination attempts. And when it gleamed above Queen Victoria, Britain was shaken by uprisings across its empire. Each monarch who wore it seemed destined to face rebellion, assassination, or downfall. The stone glowed like a drop of blood on the crown, an eternal reminder that power always comes at a price. Even in modern times, some royals are uneasy about the jewel. Its blood-soaked history whispers from beneath the glass of the Tower of London, where it rests today. Guards who patrol the jewel house speak of unease, of cold drafts and sudden shadows near the crown. And there's one more chilling detail: whenever the Black Prince's ruby has been carried into war, victory followed, but always at a devastating cost. As if the stone demands blood in exchange for triumph. The gem doesn't just sparkle, it watches. It waits. And if history has taught us anything, it's this: those who wear the Black Prince's ruby may hold power for a moment, but the stone always takes its price in blood. It looks ordinary. Just a small wooden wine cabinet, polished but unremarkable. And yet, behind its simple exterior lurks one of the most infamous cursed objects of the modern age, the Dybbuk box. Every person who has owned this box has suffered nightmares, illness, financial ruin, or worse. And what's inside remains a mystery no one dares to face. The story begins in 2001, when an antique buyer named Kevin Mannis purchased the cabinet at an estate sale in Portland, Oregon. It had belonged to a Holocaust survivor, who warned that the box must never be opened. Kevin dismissed the warning, believing it to be folklore. But soon after, he began experiencing bizarre phenomena: shadowy figures in his periphery, unrelenting nightmares, and strange odors of jasmine and cat urine filling his home. Within days, his health declined. Electronics malfunctioned around him. His mother, upon touching the box, suffered a sudden stroke. Terrified, Kevin sold it on eBay, where its legend only grew darker. The buyer, a college student, reported hair loss, sudden insomnia, and the feeling of being watched constantly. The box changed hands again and again, each owner describing escalating horrors, objects moving on their own, overwhelming waves of dread, and hallucinations of a gaunt, hateful figure. No matter who possessed it, the Dybbuk box left only fear and destruction in its wake. Eventually, the box landed in the hands of Jason Haxton, a museum curator. Unlike others, Jason tried to study the cabinet. But even he suffered bleeding eyes, skin rashes, and choking fits. He eventually sealed the box inside a gold-lined container, hoping to contain whatever spirit resided within. That's when experts began to dig deeper. The name, Dybbuk, comes from Jewish folklore, a malicious spirit said to cling to the living, tormenting them until driven out. Could this box have been deliberately crafted to imprison such a being? Even Hollywood was drawn into its shadow. The 2012 horror film The Possession was inspired by the Dybbuk box, and during filming, crew members reported strange accidents. A fire destroyed film props. Lights shattered without cause. The lead actress swore she felt watched whenever she was near the set. A cursed object so feared that even fiction about it seemed to unleash its wrath. Today, the Dybbuk box rests in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas. It's sealed behind glass, surrounded by warnings. Visitors report dizziness, fainting, and sudden waves of despair while standing near it. Security cameras have even captured unexplained flashes and shapes moving in the reflection of the case. And here's the most terrifying part: the box has been opened before. Briefly. Those who dared said they heard a low growl, felt a rush of cold air, and sensed something escaping into the room. The Dybbuk box doesn't just hold a spirit, it holds a promise: anyone who dares disturb it will pay the price. It glitters with breathtaking beauty, a 45-carat blue diamond worth hundreds of millions. But behind its dazzling glow lies a trail of blood, betrayal, and ruin. This is the story of the Hope Diamond, the jewel said to be cursed forever. Every hand that dared to possess it met with tragedy, madness, or death. The legend begins in the 1600s, when a French merchant named Jean-Baptiste Taverny obtained the massive blue gem in India. Some say he stole it from the eye of a sacred Hindu idol. Others claim he acquired it through deceit. Whatever the truth, the result was the same. Taverny fell into disgrace, lost his fortune, and eventually died penniless, his body reportedly ravaged by wild dogs. The diamond passed into the French royal treasury and was cut into a smaller stone, becoming the prized possession of King Louis XIV. But soon, tragedy followed. His heirs were plagued with illness, scandal, and ruin. Ultra-strong hook: when Marie Antoinette wore the gem, she was later executed during the French Revolution, her head severed from her body. From then on, whispers of the blue diamond curse grew louder. Prince after prince, count after count, claimed it, only to lose everything. One owner, Princess de Lamballe, was brutally murdered by a mob. Another, a Russian prince, was stabbed to death by his lover. Still another went insane, convinced the jewel was whispering to him in the night. The Hope Diamond seemed less like a jewel and more like a predator, waiting patiently for its next victim. By the 19th century, the stone found its way to London, where banker Thomas Hope purchased it, giving the gem its infamous name. Yet even the Hopes weren't spared. Family members quarreled violently over the diamond, and bankruptcy followed. Later owners reported suicides, divorces, and mysterious deaths, all linked to the stone. What should have been the ultimate symbol of wealth became a curse of endless despair. Eventually, the diamond landed in the hands of American heiress Evelyn Walsh McLean. Obsessed with its beauty, she wore it constantly, even as her family was torn apart. Her son was killed in a car crash. Her daughter died of an overdose. Her husband spiraled into insanity. She lost her fortune. Yet she refused to let go of the diamond, convinced it was both her doom and her destiny. After her death, the Hope Diamond was sold to Harry Winston, who, perhaps wisely, donated it to the Smithsonian Institution. Since then, the gem has remained in Washington, D.C., dazzling millions of visitors. But even in its glass case, guards report strange malfunctions in security systems, sudden drops in temperature, and uneasy feelings near the diamond. The Hope Diamond may be contained, but its curse is still alive, waiting for the next fool brave enough to claim it. It was 1922 when British archaeologist Howard Carter brushed away centuries of sand in Egypt's Valley of the Kings and uncovered a sealed doorway. Behind it lay the greatest archaeological discovery of all time, the tomb of the boy king Tutankhamun. Gold, treasures, and secrets of the ancient world glittered in the torchlight. But what Carter didn't realize was that he had also awakened something else, something deadly. Within months of opening the tomb, people began to die in bizarre and chilling ways. The first was Lord Carnarvon, the wealthy patron who funded the expedition. Just weeks after entering the tomb, he was bitten by a mosquito. The bite became infected, and he soon died in agony from blood poisoning. At the exact moment of his death, the lights in Cairo went out, plunging the city into darkness. Back in England, his beloved dog let out a howl and dropped dead instantly. Newspapers screamed of a Pharaoh's curse. And the deaths didn't stop. George J. Gould, a wealthy visitor to the tomb, died suddenly of a fever. An American millionaire who bought treasures from the tomb drowned mysteriously. A British archaeologist who X-rayed Tutankhamun's mummy collapsed and died soon after. In total, more than 20 people connected to the excavation met early, violent, or inexplicable deaths, fueling whispers that Tutankhamun's spirit was seeking revenge on those who disturbed his eternal rest. But here's the chilling part: an inscription, hidden within the tomb, was rumored to read, "Death shall come swiftly on wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." Was this mere coincidence, or a curse written in stone thousands of years ago that still had power? Even Carter himself, the man who led the expedition, was not untouched. Though he lived longer than most of the others, he was haunted by paranoia, convinced that something had followed him. Locals spoke of strange winds around the tomb, of jackals howling in the desert night, and of statues that seemed to shift their gaze when no one was watching. Modern scientists later discovered mold and bacteria inside the tomb that could have caused deadly infections, but that explanation feels too convenient, too neat, compared to the terrifying string of deaths that followed. Today, Tutankhamun's treasures lie in museums, admired by millions. But many whisper that the curse has not ended, it has only spread, attaching itself to anyone who dares to exploit the golden relics of the boy king. Maybe the pharaoh isn't just buried beneath stone and sand. Maybe, even now, he's watching and waiting. It looks harmless at first. A cheap, mass-produced painting of a child with tears streaming down his cheeks. During the 1950s and 60s, thousands of homes across Britain displayed it, believing it carried sentimental charm. But soon, a chilling pattern began to emerge. Houses with the crying boy painting were mysteriously burning to the ground, yet the painting itself always survived the flames, untouched. The legend began when firefighters noticed the bizarre trend. No matter how hot the fire, no matter how devastating the destruction, the crying boy painting remained intact, staring coldly from the ashes. Even frames and glass would melt away, but the child's face, frozen in sorrow, remained unscathed. Tabloids seized on the story, calling it a curse. One couple's home in Yorkshire burned to the ground hours after they hung the painting. Another family reported a blaze that consumed everything except the image of the crying child. One firefighter admitted he refused to allow the picture inside his own home, convinced it carried a dark energy. Rumors spread that the boy in the painting was not just any child, but an orphan cursed by tragedy, abandoned after watching his parents die in a fire. Some claimed the artist himself had made a pact with the devil, sealing sorrow into the canvas forever. The more the story spread, the more fires seemed to follow. By the 1980s, thousands of terrified homeowners rushed to destroy their copies, some even bringing them in mass to be burned in giant bonfires organized by local newspapers. Yet even then, many of the paintings refused to burn, blackening at the edges but never consumed. Scientists tried to explain it. They argued the painting was printed on a fire-resistant material or coated with a varnish that protected it. But even those explanations didn't answer the deeper question: why did the fires keep happening in the first place? Some claimed that those who destroyed the paintings met with other misfortunes, car crashes, illnesses, sudden deaths. As if the boy's sorrow couldn't be erased, only transferred. Today, surviving, crying boy paintings hang in museums and private collections, often kept hidden in back rooms. Visitors report feeling uneasy when they look into the child's eyes, as though the boy is staring through them rather than at them. Was it just coincidence? Or is the weeping child still carrying his curse, igniting flames of sorrow wherever his painted tears fall? Even now, stories surface online of the painting resurfacing in forgotten attics, thrift stores, or second-hand shops, waiting for the next unlucky owner to hang it on their wall. It is one of the largest diamonds in the world, a dazzling gem that has passed through the hands of emperors, sultans, and kings. But behind its glittering beauty lies a shadow, a curse whispered for centuries. This is the Koh-i-Noor diamond, the mountain of light. Legend says any man who wears the diamond will meet ruin, death, or destruction. The stone's bloody journey began in India, where it was said to be mined from the sacred Golconda region. Some claim it was once part of a Hindu temple idol before being stolen. From the moment it was torn from the hands of the gods, misfortune followed. In the 14th century, the diamond was taken by Mughal rulers. They wore it as a symbol of divine power, but each ruler who claimed it faced downfall. Shah Jahan, who built the Taj Mahal, was overthrown by his own son and imprisoned until his death, forced to stare at the monument he built from his prison cell. Later, Nader Shah of Persia looted Delhi and carried the stone away, but he was assassinated in his sleep. Afghan rulers who possessed the diamond fell into civil war and exile. It seemed the Koh-i-Noor destroyed every dynasty that dared to wield it. When the British Empire seized control of India in the 19th century, they took the diamond as spoils of conquest, presenting it to Queen Victoria. But even then, the legend held, no male monarch of Britain has ever dared to wear it. Instead, the gem has always been placed in the crowns of queens or locked away in the Tower of London, as if the curse still breathes. Whispers among Indian historians claim that the partition of India, the bloodshed, and even the fading of the British Empire itself were shadows of the Koh-i-Noor's curse. Some say the diamond is not just cursed, it is alive, feeding on blood and betrayal, growing stronger with each dynasty it destroys. Even today, the Koh-i-Noor remains a source of international dispute. India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran all demand its return, calling it stolen. Yet the British refuse to part with it, perhaps fearing what might happen if the stone leaves their possession. Locked in the Tower of London, guarded by steel and glass, the Koh-i-Noor sits silently, but those who gaze upon it swear they feel a chill, as if the diamond is watching them back. Maybe it isn't just a jewel. Maybe it's a curse carved into light itself, waiting for the next ruler arrogant enough to claim it. It was crafted in the 15th century, a simple silver vase said to be a wedding gift for a young Italian bride. But she never lived to use it. On the night of her wedding, she was murdered while clutching the vase in her hands. Her final words, whispered through blood, were a warning, this vase will bring death. For centuries, the Bassano vase carried a trail of corpses, leaving behind nothing but grief, ruin, and whispers of a curse that could not be broken. In the 1980s, the vase resurfaced in Italy, accompanied by a note that read simply, "Beware, this vase brings death." Ignoring the warning, the family that found it auctioned it off. The buyer, a local pharmacist, died within months. The vase passed again into private hands. A doctor who acquired it died mysteriously soon after. A wealthy businessman who claimed it mocked the curse, only to collapse dead 3 months later. Each owner fell, one after another, as if the vase were keeping score. The deaths came so swiftly that the last recorded owner, terrified for his life, hurled the vase from his window into the street. But fate had other plans. The vase struck a policeman walking below. Enraged, he wrote the owner a fine for littering, unaware that the object he was holding was a vessel of death. Eventually, the Bassano vase was confiscated by authorities, but even they wanted nothing to do with it. Rumors swirled that priests refused to exorcise it, terrified of its power. Instead, it was quietly sealed away, buried deep in an undisclosed location, its resting place hidden from the world. Yet whispers suggest the vase is not gone at all. Some believe it still circulates in secret. Collections, traded quietly among the reckless wealthy. Others claim it lies waiting underground, ready to surface again, ready to claim new victims. To this day, no museum dares display it. No scholar dares touch it. The Bassano vase has no admirers, only survivors who warn of its hunger. A simple piece of silver, harmless to the eye, yet deadly to the touch. The Bassano vase may be silent, but its curse is louder than ever, echoing through the centuries, waiting for the next hand bold, or foolish, enough to lift it. It looks like nothing more than an old wooden wine cabinet, worn with age, small enough to fit on a shelf. But inside this box, legends say, lives something far darker, a dybbuk, a restless spirit from Jewish folklore, said to cling to the living and spread misery wherever it goes. Every person who has owned the dybbuk box has been plagued by nightmares, sickness, and unexplainable terror. The story begins in 2001, when an antique buyer named Kevin Mannies purchased the box at an estate sale in Oregon. The seller, the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor, warned him never to open it, claiming her grandmother believed the box was cursed. Kevin ignored the warning. The moment he brought the dybbuk box home, strange things began. Lights flickered. Doors slammed shut. At night, Kevin dreamed of a demonic figure, long, withered, hollow-eyed, looming over him. His health began to fail, and his relationships collapsed. Terrified, he gave the box to his mother as a gift. She opened it. Minutes later, she collapsed from a stroke. Whoever touched the box was marked. It passed from hand to hand, each new owner writing their testimony online in desperation. One man claimed he smelled cat urine and jasmine whenever the box was near. Another said his hair began falling out in clumps. Yet another claimed shadowy figures haunted his home at night, whispering in a language he could not understand. Eventually, the box was sold on eBay, where it caught international attention. Paranormal researchers declared it one of the most haunted objects in the world. Even celebrities became involved. Musician Post Malone was linked to the box after visiting a collector who owned it, and soon after, he narrowly escaped a string of life-threatening accidents, including a near-plane crash. The box has since been locked away in a museum of haunted artifacts, sealed in glass. But guards report flickering lights, sudden chills, and whispers around it when no one else is near. Skeptics argue it's all coincidence, an elaborate hoax that grew from internet lore. But believers know better. They've read the testimonies. They've seen the pattern. The Dybbuk box isn't just a story, it's a prison. And what's trapped inside may still be waiting for someone foolish enough to set it free. The year was 1817, in the quiet farmlands of Adams, Tennessee. John Bell, a respected farmer, noticed strange disturbances in his home. It started with knocks at the door, scratching on the walls, and chains dragging across the floorboards. But soon, it became clear, this wasn't just noise. It was something intelligent. Something angry. The Bell family would become the victims of America's most terrifying witch curse, one that tormented them for years, and left a death that still has no explanation. At first, they tried to ignore it. But then, the unseen force began pulling the children's hair, slapping their faces, and throwing objects across the room. Neighbors heard the screams and came to witness it themselves. The entity began to speak, in a chilling, disembodied voice. It called itself Kate, claiming to be a witch determined to destroy John Bell. Word spread fast, and soon people traveled from miles around to witness the phenomenon. Even General Andrew Jackson, future President of the United States, visited the Bell home. He was said to have fled in terror after experiencing the witch's wrath firsthand. Kate's obsession with John Bell grew darker. She cursed him, vowing he would die under her hand. His health declined rapidly, mysterious seizures, a swelling throat, and wasting sickness. Doctors were baffled. Then, in 1820, Bell was found dead. Beside his body lay a vial of strange, dark liquid. When the family gave the liquid to the cat, it died instantly. The witch's voice rang out in triumph, "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, and he will never get up again." John Bell's death became the only recorded case in American history of a spirit being blamed for a man's murder. After his funeral, the witch laughed and sang for hours, mocking the family's grief. But then, just as suddenly as she came, she vanished, promising to return in 7 years. True to her word, the entity reappeared in 1828, haunting John Bell Jr. before disappearing once more. To this day, the Bell Witch legend remains unsolved. Some say it was a curse from a scorned neighbor. Others believe it was a demon, a restless spirit, or even a trick of collective hysteria. But the Bell family cemetery still stands, and locals swear that strange voices and figures can be seen near the site on moonlit nights. The Bell Witch may have killed her chosen victim 2 centuries ago, but many believe she still waits in the shadows, watching, whispering, and ready to strike again. In the heart of Iowa City's Oakland Cemetery stands a towering statue, an angel cast in bronze, wings stretched wide, face bowed in sorrow. But time has warped its beauty. The once golden surface has turned pitch black, as though scorched by some unseen fire. Locals call it the Black Angel, and they say it carries a curse. Anyone who touches the Black Angel at midnight will die within 7 years. The statue was commissioned in the early 20th century by a grieving mother, Teresa Feldevert, to honor her son and husband. But soon after it was erected, rumors began to spread. Why had the angel darkened so quickly, while other bronze statues remained unchanged? Priests blessed it. Scientists tested it. No explanation was found. People began to whisper that it wasn't corrosion, it was punishment. Teenagers dared each other to kiss the statue at night. Some who tried were later found dead in accidents, overdoses, or suicides. Coincidence? Or the angel's hand? Local legend grew more sinister. They said if couples kissed beneath the angel's wings, their love would be doomed. If a pregnant woman walked under it, her child would be stillborn. And if anyone defied the curse, the angel's eyes would glow red, marking them for death. Teresa herself only deepened the mystery. She never explained why the angel turned black. And when she died in 1924, her ashes were placed at the foot of the statue, yet no inscription marked her resting place, as though even she feared the angel's gaze. In the decades that followed, strange occurrences piled up. Visitors reported cold winds blowing only near the angel. Cameras malfunctioned. Some claimed to hear whispering voices circling the statue. Others swore they saw the angel's wings shift in the moonlight, as if preparing to move. The cemetery became a testing ground for dares. On Halloween nights, crowds gathered to see if anyone would challenge the curse. Those who touched the angel's face often vanished from the community within years, victims of car wrecks, mysterious illnesses, or self-destruction. Even skeptics admit the odds are eerie. Too many names, too many funerals tied back to the angel. Some now refuse to walk near it at all, fearing their shadows might brush against its cursed base. Today, the Black Angel still looms over Oakland Cemetery, towering and silent. Tourists snap photos in daylight, but locals know better than to linger after dark. Whether it's metal decay or a curse forged in grief, the Black Angel stands as a warning. Some monuments are not built to honor the dead, they are built to keep the living away. Hollywood is full of ghost stories, but none is as terrifying as the curse said to haunt the Poltergeist film trilogy. What began as a blockbuster horror series in the 1980s soon became one of the most infamous cases of life imitating art.